Welcome to Uncandid Coding, where we seek to examine the ugly sides of life through the lens of real, practical Christianity. Our conversations are raw and unscripted. We have not planned in advance what will be discussed. We just want to have honest dialogue that incorporates the living principles of the gospel without sugarcoating the realities of the human experience. My name is Julia Bellman, and I'm your host, as well as the speaker and director of Family Health and Education Resources, the ministry out of which this podcast was born. We're glad you've decided to join us, and we hope you find encouragement here today. Welcome to Uncandid Coding. I'm your host, Julia Bellman, and today I'm happy to be able to spend some time to get to know Antonio Scoop Jardine. In just a minute, he's going to introduce himself, and we'll jump right in. But first, I want to introduce this platform for those who are not familiar with the mission of Uncandid Coding. Family Health and Education Resources is a Christian ministry that works to establish community programs across the United States that address the crisis of depression and addiction, along with other health and wellness challenges, and we utilize the biblical principles of health and restoration to do so. I am the speaker and director of the ministry and have been encouraged by several of my colleagues to create a space for conversations with individuals who have struggled and worked to overcome the realities associated with depression, addiction, illness, or any combination. Conversations that seek to answer the tougher questions through the lens of real, honest, practical Christianity. So here we are. And today I have the privilege of chatting with Antonio Jardine. And before we begin our conversation, I'm going to ask God's blessing on our time together. So, Father in heaven, I thank you for the privilege and the technology to be able to connect with Scoop today. I just ask that you bless our time together, lead and guide our conversation, that it may be a glory and an honor to you. We ask all these things in the beloved name of Jesus. Amen. Scoop, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to just sit back and give you a few minutes to introduce yourself and your background. So introduce yourself to the audience.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Scoop Jardine. Well, Antonio Scoop Jardine, known as Scoop. I'm from Philadelphia, PA, 4-year basketball player at Syracuse University, where I walked away with a master's in child development and the undergrad business management. I played professional basketball for 6 years of my life after college and retired because of mental health, depression.
You ultimately retired from the sport that you love, not because of your physical injury. Now, you did suffer physical injuries during your NBA workouts, and that led to a series of challenges within your career in and of itself. Tell us a little bit about those things.
I broke my foot 2 days before the NBA draft. And everybody know, kid, I played basketball my whole life. You couldn't tell me, kid growing up in Philadelphia, that I wasn't going to go to the NBA or basketball wasn't going to be paying me in some sort. So when I broke my foot, I didn't know I was actually depressed the whole time. It was actually in my decision making, but I didn't have the energy no more to do anything, like not even to go to rehab, to even get my foot better, to be able to play the game that I ultimately love. So when I break my foot 2 days before the draft, I started doing everything other than basketball. Like I tried to get away from the game and just really so get my mind off of what, being hurt. But in the process of that, I just was doing everything that was like out of the ordinary of who I was and who I thought I was and who I became. So I just started lying to everybody around me. That was the first, I think, sign for me. Like, and it was about my dream. Like my dad had asked me, "Scoop, did you work out today?" And everybody knew me at the time. I worked out all the time. But after I broke my foot, I would lie to my mom and my dad that I worked out. And I would just do things like that all the time and just lie to them about, again, my dream. And I felt like it became more about the people instead of me. So I literally retired at the age of 25 years old. because I felt like I was lying to everybody that looked like, that I love about something that I did not want to do, that I didn't have the love. I felt like I didn't have the love. I didn't have the passion. I didn't have any of the sort of, when I broke my foot, I was that hurt and that depressed. But I didn't have the information to go speak to somebody either. So I just knew from that day on, of breaking my foot 2 days for the draft and not being able to, like, I felt like, my whole life I wanted to be drafted. That was the thing. It wasn't about even making the NBA. I wanted to get drafted in the NBA. That was like a big thing for me. So when that didn't happen, literally I went into a whole depression because it was personally, it was something I wanted to do. And it didn't happen, and I felt the reason it didn't happen because I broke my foot.
Do you think that mental illness and mental health awareness in general is something that's lacking in the mentorship process of young athletes such as yourself?
Is the biggest. It's number one, especially when they go get the young athletes such as myself coming from these inner cities, already dealing with PTSD, already dealing with, like, before I went to college, just to give a little, literally 2 weeks before I actually got to Syracuse, I lost one of my cousins. Like, literally died, watched him die on the ground, shot. And by me going to college and getting away from the city, his funeral was like a week later, 2 weeks, but I couldn't go to the funeral because I was in college. But by me not going and being a part of something like that, just a funeral, I just go past as a funeral, just going back to pay your respect to your family member. But what was going on at this time, I missed so many funerals and just people in my family dying when I started playing basketball. I wasn't even immune to it no more till when I break my foot, and now I'm in Philly. I'm dealing with it hands on. It was like a new world, but I was away from that world for 5 years of my life when I was in college. You understand what I'm saying? So I've seen it go back and forth. Like, it was like, but it's the biggest thing. I think we all be dealing with some sort of PTSD, especially from the inner city. And now it's even worse because now you see these kids, everything is on camera. So I think everything is much more magnitude now. But back then, yes, is the biggest piece that's missing, and player development, just development, period. Because we don't believe in it either in the inner cities. If you go talk to somebody professionally about any sort of therapy or whatever it is, you're considered crazy, or you're considered some sort of that. It's not. You're getting help, you're getting practice, or you're practicing on yourself to be a better self. You see the positive words I use? It's not that. All negative. You see what I'm saying? Like, so like inner city also, what you put out in your words all the time, is big. You learn that in therapy, and you learn that like now as an athlete. Now I train all the time, and I talk to myself so positive, like, and it's not negative. Like when I was young, I used to speak so negative of myself in the game, and that does stuff to your mental too. To your body. That part is missing. So, yes, I agree with what you were saying as far as being missing in development.
So do you think that the pursuit of mental health and wellness, even just talking about it, not only in the inner cities as you talked about, but do you think that it's considered a sign of weakness in the game?
Yes. And you see more guys come out about it now, actually. More NBA players are now starting to come out because you don't necessarily have to be in the inner city. Like I'll tell you Jeremy Lin's story. This is a kid who, he's an Asian kid. They deal, with all the hate crimes going against the Asian people today. It's just everybody, you deal with it. But I think mental health, and while I speak about Jeremy Lin, he was talking about how he got himself mentally stronger to be able to play 10, 11 seasons in the NBA when everybody thought he wasn't going to make it.
I feel like we're doing a tremendous disservice to those individuals who are in the position that you were in as a young athlete, and those who are in positions of spotlight, the ones who are on that pedestal. We have such high expectations for their performance, for their on and off the court behaviors, for, the trajectory of their life after the game. We have such high expectations.
Oh, I can speak on that. I got a whole thing about that, if you allow me to elaborate.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a whole story and this is some of my testimony we can get into, and I'm going to just speak about it today. So when I was in college, my freshman year at Syracuse, I was falsely accused of rape, of sexual assault, me and two of my teammates. And it's all in the paper, right? You're a college athlete. You're only 18 years old. So we was all 18 years old at this time, fresh out of high school. She basically accused us of sexual assault. While we're fighting these accusations or whatever, I get in trouble again for a meal card, a stolen meal card of nothing I did. It was something I had my uncle living up in Syracuse with me at the time. Basically, he was using that to get in parties because they wanted to recognize if you was a student or you wasn't off campus. So he started using that card to get food. He did, not me. But being as though he was living with me in my apartment, I never went and signed with him. I didn't know anything about that. I was a freshman. I was literally fresh from Philly. I got in trouble for that too, literally 2 weeks after being accused of rape. So now here it is. My name was in the paper. I'm basically just this big. I'm not Scoop Jardine. I'm this troubled kid from Philadelphia. And when I tell you my name was in the paper every single day for it, it mentally did something to me. But I didn't even know at the time. I didn't know. I was, I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm just feel like I humiliated my whole family. So when everything come out, we wound up, beating the case. The female wound up, getting dismissed from school. I wound up getting just nothing. No pro. I think I got probation for the meal card thing, but it was nothing I did, especially with the sexual assault. Nothing that was accused of us, right? But my name was in the paper. This followed me for like 3 years of my life in college. Like even when I played good games, they would speak about what I did first when I got in trouble my first 2 weeks up there. And it will haunt me. It will bother me so much when I would be around Syracuse. They would talk to me. I'm in college, though. I'm a 19, 20 years old kid at this time. But the mental and how I got them to stop talking about it, I got better in basketball. I just kept getting better in basketball. And by the time my fourth year, they didn't even mention it at all. And they don't even mention it at all no more. But the mental, like, nobody know what I went through mentally. Literally, I didn't go talk to nobody. Didn't go talk to the trust issues I built in that time. Just the trust issues. I didn't trust anything. I just felt like everybody failed me. My name was in the paper. They were accusing me of this, and I knew I was innocent. But nobody cared about that once your name go in the paper as an art. It wasn't about that. So I say all of that to say literally, like, I didn't go. We didn't. Two other teammates was with me, but I didn't go talk to nobody. I just got better in basketball. But the trust issues I have to this day with that, even with females, I don't really trust because somebody falsely accused me of sexual assault.
So let's talk about that for just a second. You come basically off the streets of Philadelphia, where you've had family members die right in front of you from, gang violence or whatever the case may be. Funeral after funeral after funeral. You're suffering with, extreme mental stress, if nothing else. You've got PTSD, trauma after trauma after trauma. What you've got going for you as an individual, however, is your athletic ability. You're good at basketball. So you go from high school to Syracuse University, and you're thrust into this situation where you are expected to conduct yourself in professional manner, and you're completely unfamiliar with this environment.
Literally. No, 100%.
It's like being thrown into a foreign country, right?
Class, everything.
Right. Yeah, so, and you have to maintain a GPA. So,
yeah, class too.
I think that, number one, we're putting way too much stress and pressure on these young athletes.
Without paying them anyway, at least.
Well, my husband and I have opinions on... Let me ask, what is your faith background? Do you have a background in Christianity or?
Yeah, so I grew up and I would say Islam. I'm Muslim. Grew up Islam. Whole family is Muslim. And even when it comes to religion, where I got to in a candid because of mental health and everything, it's very spiritual than anything. More spirituality than anything. I'm spiritual. I believe what you put into the universe, you get back. This is why. I'm a kid who I grew up studying Islam to my family. My dad, my mom, my whole family, entire family is Muslim. But by me playing basketball and coming across different people, I truly never practiced it. I knew what I was, knew who I was, but I truly never practiced the religion. So as I grew up, my life I started it was basketball. So now I'm around. I go to a Catholic school. Which I would say because of basketball, but it was a private school. It was great for me. It was a perfect opportunity. But now I'm in Catholic school. I'm learning about this religion, not purposely, but I am. I'm in school every day, so I'm learning about it. And then I got to pass this test so I can pass this class in theology. So now I'm learning about the Catholic religion. Then I go to Syracuse. It's what people don't know about Syracuse. It's and I got up there, I got to be around the Jewish community. A bunch of Jewish kids go to Syracuse. So now I'm in Syracuse, and but I became a people. I'm about people, right? And now I'm Syracuse. I did the Passovers up there because some of my ex-Sam, I did the Passover with Sam before. I played in Israel where I was running Jewish and Islam. So what I've learned with religion, literally, even being in China with the Chinese people, what I've learned, it's God. You believe in I believe in God at the end of the day.
So you said what you put out is what you get back, right?
But you get it back, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's a biblical principle. It's, you will reap what you sow.
You sow, yes.
Right.
Yes. That's why I'm about the mental health with the positive, what you speak into the universe, best self into it. That's how I got to this. And this really got me where I'm at now and playing back and playing the game I love and big smile on my face and just touch people. It's because of that. Speak positive to myself, and I got to this space. But I think religion was definitely the root because I was being around, growing up being Muslim and going to Catholic school and then going to Jewish, being around my Jewish friends and just having all these different. I love all people.
I think it's very important to be able to relate. You mentioned earlier that you quite literally retired from the sport because of your depression.
Because of depression. I wasn't identified, but yes.
So I read in an article that injury derailed your hopes of your NBA career. You played professionally in a league in Europe, is that correct?
Yes.
And then...
My brother was gunned down. He was shot and killed. So my little cousin died when I was actually about to come work out for the Sixers. That day, he got killed. I was flying in to train and have a workout for the Sixers for the draft. And I had to go to a funeral. And I had to stay an extra 2 days in Philly just to attend all of that before I got shipped off to Dallas to go work out for the Mavericks. And then from the Mavericks, I left and went and worked out for Utah, and that's where I broke my foot in Utah.
And then after you rehabilitated your foot and you're about to leave...
About to leave and I got back right, I got back healthy, got myself going. And that summer, I just signed to go to Austria. And this is where it started with like depression, right? Because this is where I first start identifying it. I get back healthy. I'm talking about I do everything to get my foot right. And it was a lot. When you're going through rehab and what I've learned, and this is why I should have been talking to somebody, because rehab, and I never been hurt a day in my life. No injuries, never been told I couldn't play basketball. So now I'm hurt. My foot is broke. I'm now second guessing myself if I can play, all these things. So this is why I should have been advised to go speak to someone. But going through this, I'm going through rehab. My physical therapist, he was so good. That's what you literally have to pick. It ain't about a person getting you back physically. It's coming in there every day. I would come in there every day, and I would be like, my energy will be down. And this man wouldn't even work with me on my foot. He would just talk to me. You understand what I'm saying? And that to me, and we went through it, him going through that with me. He's not a professional someone to talk, but he's just a great coach. It's in coaching. It's in having good people around you. And this is what I went through on my journey, because by me going in therapy every day, and I felt that my energy was down. I was second guessing myself. I wasn't doing anything to get right, to try to get back to play the game I know I truly and ultimately love, was basketball, right? But my physical therapist helped me through my journey to get back healthy. And it was more him speaking to me. And have nothing to do with getting my foot right. It's how your mind plays the biggest. So now I get back healthy. I go through all of that. I landed an opportunity to go to Austria, pretty okay money, but again, the opportunity is to play basketball, something you love to do. And my little brother, literally 2 weeks before I was about to leave to go, he got shot, gunned down, and that's when I saw my whole family, we watched him. He was on the ground. He was out there for a very long time. So just the vision, I always go back to that a lot, like seeing him land on the ground. He got shot in his head, so, in the middle of the street. So, like, seeing that, I'm talking about everybody, and I always go back to everybody who was out there, because I wasn't the only person out there. He had I'm his older sibling. He had a bunch of little cousins that was younger than me that saw that, too. Now, when I go back now, and it's, that happened in 2014, we're now in 2021, my little cousins that I saw that was crying, watching my little brother on the ground, I see them now, and they all terrible. You understand what I'm saying? From the trauma. I watched it, though. And this is something that I'm going through. With my testimony, I'm going through literally daily. And the more, I experience what I experienced, I just want to give that back and pass it forward. That's why I agreed to do this interview, because I'm not afraid to talk about what I've been through.
We're going to take just a quick break and be right back. Over a 5-year span, Family Health and Education Resources worked with professionals in mental and medical health, counselors, teachers, pastors, and first responders, as well as individuals walking in freedom, and even those who are still chained to the cruel cycle of addiction and depression. We did so to develop community programs that effectively address these issues and make them available to community sponsors across the United States. The Free Indeed philosophy is simple. Combine health sciences with the biblical principles of health and restoration in a practical approach to restored health and vitality. Now that communities across the United States are opening back up to in-person events, we are looking for community partners to work with Family Health and Education Resources to bring these life-changing Free Indeed programs to life for the millions of people struggling to simply put one foot in front of the other. If your church group or organization would like to know how to make the Free Indeed programs a reality for your community, please email me directly at julia@fheronline.com and help break the cruel cycle of depression and addiction in your community. Email me today at julia@fheronline.com. Welcome back to Uncandid Coding. I'm your host, Julia Bellman, and today I'm sitting down with Antonio Jardine. I always think about, when I talk to individuals, I think about their community, their community of origin, and how the work that I strive to achieve in the world, how it would be received in any given individual's community of origin. And you mentioned that to even talk about being down or depressed or struggling or anything of the nature is viewed as a sign of weakness.
Yes.
So how would those programs be received in your community of origin?
I've been actually working at it. And what I've been doing, of course, using the game of basketball. Uh-huh. And I think that's how you have to do. You have to tap into the communities. You see what the feel of the communities is, and you tap into that. Like with me, I always go with basketball. I think everybody loves the game. So that's my biggest, where it brings the guard down now. Me speaking about mental health is giving my testimony first. Mm-hmm. Making sure I'm doing that, and then making sure I'm advocate. I'm advising other athletes of myself and what I've been trying to do. And so what I do right now, I'm what you call like a sports manager. Like I manage athletes also. I'm behind some of the top deals, young kids in basketball today. I wouldn't even lie about just consulting, right? Now what I do with me is use me at 32 years old, practice on me every day, even from the mental health perspective. And now what I do is I use my program. And when I bring kids from Philly, these kids from the inner city, and I'm giving them what I didn't have. I'm giving them everything I had, but I'm giving them that missing piece that I didn't have. Now, what I do with our kids, strategically, not all kids can take this program, but I go after the kids, again, of myself, and not just myself, that I see talented, and I bring them because I don't live in Philadelphia no more. I think the best way to help a kid from Philly is to get them out. You know what I'm saying? Because you are around your peers. It's like a crab barrel city, so you get them out, and that's how they flourish and become their true self. Because that's me, my testimony, right? Now what I do is I bring kids. I just had 4 kids from North Philadelphia, some of the toughest areas in North Philly, and I just had them in Vegas with me for 2 weeks. I'm going through my testimony daily. I get up every morning. I start my day with a meditation. I feel like from 5 o'clock to 8 a.m., that's my time for me. So I get up every morning at 5 a.m. and I meditate. I got a yoga class, and then from yoga, I go to the basketball court, right? So from 5 a.m., literally, I'm giving me my time. This program really worked for me, and I'm so much in a great mental space. I'll tell you, like, the best I've ever been in. And it was more because I'm giving my time. You know, I feel like when you get up and you give so much, I give so much to everybody else when you have time to give to yourself. So the biggest thing I'm giving to these kids, and I brought them to Vegas, so all you can do is really work on your game and get right. These are the kids, they want to play professionally one day. One kid's going to University of Miami, got another kid going to University of UConn. So these are really good kids, right? Now, what we did, though, what they've seen the biggest difference, how I taught was the mental health, breathing. All I taught these kids when the 2 weeks that they was with me was how to breathe. I didn't teach them how to play basketball. They already knew how to do that. I didn't teach them how to do anything on the court. I taught them how to breathe. When it gets so chaotic, when you're tired, how to slow your mind down just to breathe through a game.
It's interesting that's the approach that you take because it is so vital.
It's one form of it, yeah. It's one form.
Yeah.
It's one. So that's the first before they go. You're gonna go through all barriers of your lives, and I'm not here to tell them what they're gonna go through. Or they're gonna have to go through it on their own, right? But I'm here to give them some notes. Now, here's the notes to the test. It's up to you, though. Will always be up to the person.
Do you feel like if you had been better equipped, given the baggage, the traumatic mental baggage that you carried with you to Syracuse,
right?
If you had been better equipped to process those things that were on your back, if you had been better equipped to appropriately deal with them in a healthy, constructive way, do you think that your path would have been different?
I don't truly like to speak of my past as my past and learning, what I know now. This is my journey, it's my purpose. So it's hard to answer that for me. I always talk to my father about this. We didn't have the notes to the test. We just was living through it. My journey was a little different. Everything else, the mental health part, seeing what I've seen, like that lit a fire under me. And I think that fire you always need to have is your why. Everybody has to find their why. I always knew my why. And I think the community helped me with that. And that's why when you're an athlete, learning how to breathe, learning how to really get you a routine, learning how to do these things instead of being all over the place. And this is where I feel like this is where the mental, part come in. Because Michael Jordan got a quote where he said the game is 90% mental, 10% physical. That's crazy. And this is Michael Jordan, who got the best physical attributes you would think ever, right? And they said Phil Jackson, one of the greatest coaches of all time. What they talk about, Phil's practiced that with all the guys. Oh, everybody play with Phil. Phil's about yoga. He's about Zen. They call him Zen Phil. But that's why, because you got to be at peace with yourself.
There's a verse in Romans chapter 8 and verse 28. It says that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. Now, that verse doesn't say that all things are good, but it says that all things work for good. The disappointments, the disasters, the injuries, even the funerals work together for good. How do you see your past history now working for the good of the people who you have influence in their lives?
It's the best. I see it. I always was a kid who had a big following, right? But I didn't know why. I didn't know why people followed me. I never knew my calling. Never knew my purpose. About me being on my journey of becoming my best self, I'm not in competition with anyone. So if you follow me, I'm going to show you how to become your best self. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that's how you can be better for anybody, whichever you're trying to give to somebody. My grandmama always said, scoop you can't take from an empty glass. Now how I help myself, how I make my glass not empty, you got to give that time to yourself. So my following now is becoming bigger too, and I feel it. And I know the journey I'm on because I'm not talking about it no more. I'm literally, it's in my routine. I wake up every day, 6 days a week at 5 a.m. Every day. I'm up every day, at least 6 days out of the week, 5 a.m., and I'm working on self first. One thing I do a day is I write a daily appreciation letter to somebody. Because like you about to get one. Something simple. Man, I appreciate you inviting me on your show and thinking of me. Thank you.
Well, it's really a privilege to have you, to be able to chat with you about these things because, not everybody is comfortable to talk about, the struggles that they've had, especially people who have, a larger following. They have to keep up that polished exterior. And so it's not easy for people to come on and talk about their struggles, their challenges in the areas in their life where they haven't been perfectly polished and strong. So I appreciate your willingness to come on and share with us. You mentioned your 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. personal work. The way that I describe that, my husband and I have 6 adult children, and we were a full house. But what I tell my kids now and have throughout their life is that, how when you're on an airplane, I'm going to tell you if the cabin were to suddenly lose pressure, the oxygen masks are going to fall out of the sky, put your mask on first. Because you are no good to anybody if you're unconscious.
Yo, that's my biggest. It's so funny you say that. That's one of my acknowledgments to the kids. Like when they tell you to get on the plane, what they always say.
You have to put your mask on first. Others. Right.
Yes, before you assist others. They always say that. And I use that analogy all the time. And I also use the analogy just to my inner city kids, and I'm sure they like me, they saw trauma, so they saw people get shot and be on the ground and asking for their life. And the first thing I will always hear a cop or a paramedic say to the person that's on the ground shot is breathe. Just breathe. They would say that, breathe. And I never knew why. Paramedics, you'll hear, they say that to the person on the ground swimming because they shot, and they tell them to breathe. So when I start breathing and keeping my eyes on me and I don't know nobody else, and I'm breathing through I will feel my body naturally just getting somewhere. I will feel
it. God breathed into Adam the breath of life. And when we stop for just a moment, in no matter what situation we're in, no matter, what the crisis is, if we just stop and take in that life-giving breath, then we're able to move forward in such a way that is equipped for, optimal output, for success. Doesn't matter if it's an incredibly stressful situation, like, God forbid, having seen a family member shot and killed on the streets of Philadelphia, or you're stepping up to the foul line and there's, 2.1 seconds left on the clock and you got 2 free ones coming at you. And if you hit both of these, you know what happens next. You miss one, you go
pressure,
home.
But it's all the same pressure. Yeah.
Right.
So it's different pressure, but it's all pressure.
Right.
How you get your mind to understand how to attack that pressure or deal with that pressure, whatever you want to use, is that's the work you have to put in. My purpose, I'm living it daily. It wasn't to make the NBA. It wasn't to get drafted and have all the millions of dollars from the NBA, but it wasn't that way. It wasn't that route. That's what God did. He took that. He showed me. I had to go figure it out. Now I got it because I ain't played no basketball. My following still where it's at. And I'm still who I am in basketball in the business.
Some people who experience disappointments and discouragements, like what you've described in this conversation, maybe they didn't make the team they were hoping to make, or they didn't sign that contract they were hoping and their family was counting on them to sign. And their path takes an entirely different turn. That's why that verse in Romans 8:28 matters to me as an individual so much. All things work together for good to them who love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. I think that we as individuals have to be open to the idea that there's a plan that we might not be aware of. And if we're open to a plan that's different than what maybe we had in mind, because you were exercising for what, the Sixers? The 76ers?
Yeah, I worked out for a lot of teams. But yeah, Sixers is my dream team to play with, of course, because I'm a Philly kid, and I'm from South Philly.
So that path, though, that's not where the Lord led you. Your path has been completely different, and I appreciate your willingness to take the traumas, the disappointments, and the discouragements that you have experienced in your life and now turned it so that you can mentor these young athletes who you do have influence with and give them not only the confidence to pursue their dreams and work toward their goals for themselves, but also to establish a solid person that's not just identified as, oh, there goes Antonio Jardine, great basketball player, on and on and on. Oh, there goes Antonio Jardine. You know, he's a really great guy. He works hard. He practices what he preaches. He invests in his community. And he wants what's best for everyone around him. And that's not something that's not common.
Mm-hmm.
You have this,
yeah.
And you have this facade that you have to maintain. You know, the tough guy, got it all together. Yeah. But is that really working toward the best of your community?
No. I asked the question earlier. Is it missing in development? Yes, I think it should be the number one thing, because you have to make that environment, whatever that safe haven, that you know, your peaceful place, that got to be peaceful to you. So I'm speaking. This is stuff that, again, I wish was taught to me, but now I'm teaching it.
We're going to take just a quick break and be right back. Once COVID-19 brought in-person meetings and events to a halt, Family Health and Education Resources was forced to take the free Indeed programs that address the cycle of depression and addiction online. We have worked over these past few months to create an online classroom for people who don't have access to the in-person programs that will give them the tools and encouragement they need to break free from the cycle of depression and addiction. FHERonline.teachable.com is where you will find the online version of the community programs. Learn how to live the life of abundance Jesus promised in John chapter 10. He said, "The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly." Once you've enrolled, you'll enjoy lifetime access to the current programs offered by Family Health and Education Resources, as well as all future programs. You'll have access to all of the materials that have been designed for your immediate and continued success. Family Health and Education Resources is a Christian ministry with one mission: bring hope to the hopeless and share the wealth of information that has and is working for us and the ones who dare to take a chance. The website is FHERonline.teachable.com. Enroll today to begin your journey to freedom. That's FHERonline.teachable.com. Welcome back to Uncandid Coding. I'm your host, Julia Bellman, and today I'm sitting down with Antonio Jardine. I very, 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 I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I very much appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. I'm going to save your number if that's okay.
Man, do please.
And
this was a great conversation. I don't even think it was like, man, this is a real great. I feel like this was therapy for me too. Again, like I use all like you got me to open up. You know, when I'm able to open up, because again, you don't really trust. I go off of energy and feeling, and I go off of that. But it's hard for me to trust. You see what I'm saying? Like it's hard for me to speak to somebody because again, when you're speaking especially to the news or people, you're not controlling narratives. It might come out not what you want. That's what happened to me at Syracuse with the media. they slandered me for years and years, and that made me really not trust to really speak about my testimony or speak about something because you might misinterpret what I said.
Oh, believe me, I know. I'm not coming from a place of athletic fame or anything else, but my testimony is incredibly challenging. And when I do share my testimony, it's almost like being traumatized all over again. So I have to really mentally prepare. But then after I've shared my challenges, the things that I've been through and have worked to overcome, it's inevitable. I will always have somebody come up to me and thank me, because by my sharing, I've given them the courage to then open up and share and begin their healing process. That's huge. That's huge to me. It's the only reason that I really do the work that I do. So
I love that you say that, because that's what I love to do. I love to do that work you're doing. And it's like, for me, because I love to share. I'm the person I'm like the person to go get across the bridge, get on the other side, because they said you couldn't go there. I'm going to get over there for us. I'm going to come back and be like, yo, I'm sharing. Yo, come on. That's it. Come on.
Yeah. Here's how I cross. Now let me help you cross.
I'm not hiding the rocks behind my hand. While I'm behind my back. I'm sharing what I had so you can now go further. Get over the next bridge.
Right. I really, really identify with very much of what you said and what you shared with me today. And I think that for many who are listening and will be listening, to this episode, are going to hear in your story the same ways that they themselves have struggled, and be given the hope and the encouragement to take those next steps, to put that oxygen mask on and gain the strength that they need in order to put one foot in front of the other. Because sometimes, some days, that's truly all we have in us, is just, let me put this foot up here, and let me put this next foot up here. Because some days are hard. Some days are so hard. And that's okay. That's another thing that I don't think we give the younger generation, the ones who are coming up behind us, we don't give them permission to acknowledge that today's hard. This is a hard day, and that's okay. And so I feel like if we were to not only give young people and the people that are within our sphere of influence permission to feel the difficulty, but also to equip them and encourage them with the tools that they need to overcome that difficulty, then from that challenge that they have overcome, now they're in a position to help someone through a challenge that is similar in nature. And that's why I think what you've been through and what you have decided to do with those experiences in order to help the people who look to you, who listen to you, and who, are encouraged by your story. I think that it's so vital for you to take that and translate that into the equipment and the encouragement for people overcome their challenges and to be the very best that they can be, not only for themselves, but for their family and for their larger community. And I think that influence, I think that those things are far more important to me as a ministry director, as a mother, as a wife, as just a stranger on the street. That is more important to me than who won the NC2A championship in 2008.
I love it. Appreciate that.
Well, let's stay in touch. I'd love to see how my ministry and the programs that we've worked to develop can work with what you're doing, especially the depression recovery aspect. The program that we promote in the communities is called Freedom from Depression. And I'd love to see how we can partner and work with, these kids and young people that you're mentoring and help them and equip them to not only survive today, but to thrive tomorrow. So,
okay, I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to even think of me to be a part of this platform and everything going forward. I'm sure we're going to connect again, and whatever you need me to do going forward, I'm one phone call away.
That's awesome. I'm going to close with prayer, and then I'm going to let you go. Our Father in heaven, it's a beautiful day here. And I'm thankful for the privilege and the opportunity to speak with Antonio today. And I'm just so thankful for the way that you have led and guided him. And I just ask that you continue to bless the work of his hands, that you would inspire him and encourage him as he works to be a force and an influence for good in the world around him and the people with whom he comes into contact and the influence that he has with them. I just ask that you would be with us now as we close today's episode and bless those who will hear our conversation and be encouraged by it. According to all of the many blessings that we enjoy, in the beloved name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you've taken courage from our conversation. If you have questions you'd like answered specifically, please email our team at uncandidcoding@fheronline.com. If you'd like to share your story with us, you can send me an email directly at julia@fheronline.com. We hope you'll join us again. And until then, God bless and Godspeed.